Here's the Japanese value set for the 5L. And so in order to calculate the score for any health state, any 5L health state, you simply plug in mobility number, you plug in the self-care number, and so on. This sort of 0.0616 is just a sort of statistical thing that the model fits better if you have a fixed decrement for any health state that's not full health. But
that model assumes simple additivity,
yep.
Which is quite unlikely.
Well, overwhelmingly these models have. Some of them had some element of, shall we say, a sort of non-linearity. A lot of the 3L models used to have an added decrement if any of the levels were at level 3. And so if you had a level 3, not only did that sort of lower the score, it lowered it more, a sort of added penalty. And so that still additive, but moving away from a sort of simple linearity model. This is what's fitted the data. I mean, individuals have explored other models, but this has predominantly been what's thought to fit best. No interactions either. So how people are valuing or responding to different self-care levels is independent of how they've completed other dimensions. Now, whether that's because people haven't collected a rich enough data set to capture potential interaction effects, that's one possibility. But people have collected quite a lot of data and haven't found interaction effects. So
these numbers are the ratings that we would add into the value.
Yes, they are. Sorry, I did sketch over this. So you get your time trade-off responses. So you've got a pile of numbers, a series of numbers, under 1, some negative, but not very many. And you're then trying to explain that number. And you're explaining the number by what level were the different dimensions at in that choice. And your statistical model then allows you to say, well, if somebody is at level slight rather than no problem of mobility, this, on average, is going to lower their score by 0.0654.
So the critique of linearity isn't really completely accurate because these have already been weighted to be nonlinear. Your rating of slight mobility has different rating than slight self-care.
Oh, they have. Oh, yes. I mean, the dimensions have different, in effect, different weights,
right.
Which is then wrapped up into the level. But you could still have a multiplicative model, would be an obvious alternative.
Sure. Linearity and additivity are two different things.
Exactly. And so this is additive, but it's not linear.
Yeah, right.
And what we tend to notice is as we move through the levels, at first the decrement is quite small, but tends to get larger.
I think this is like a fully factorial trial with 5 factors. And though if you have about 1,000 patients, I think you can examine the interaction with the same statistical power as for individual factors.
Well, yes. I mean, if we go back to the 5L, typically you've got quite a lot of data. You've got sample sizes of about 1,000. In effect, with the TTO valuing 10 of the health states, and with the discrete choice experiment, 7 pairs. You've really got quite rich data. But of course, the 5L has 3,125 possible ways of completing it. 5 to the 5.
Yeah.
And so, whereas with the 3L, 243 possible health states, there's a lot more health states to value here. So maybe there's a question whether we've got quite enough data still. Okay, I better move on a bit. So that's the scoring system for 5L for Japan. Yeah, I'll just touch on this. Compared to the 3L Japanese tariff, there are fewer negative valuations. 2.5% of the 3L health states were scored as negative in the Japanese survey, whereas 0.1%, almost none, none of the health states are scored as negative in the 5L. And so the minimum value, the value of being in that very worst health state, scoring 5 for everything, has a score of minus 0.025, whereas being at the worst health state for the 3L had a score of minus 0.106. So there's some change there. The greatest weight still attaches to mobility. But with the 5L, the weights attaching to anxiety and depression are much bigger than they used to be for the 3L. And interestingly, we've seen this phenomenon with other countries. The English value set, 3L, mobility was really most important. Moving to 5L, mobility is still important, but less so, and anxiety and depression. Now, is this something to do with the descriptive system? Is it to do with a change in the way we've listed preferences? Is it preferences have changed over time? The English study originally was done in 1993, the 3L, whereas the 5L data was collected in about 2015. So it might be preferences have changed, that we're less concerned about mobility. Now we have these motorized sort of wheelchairs. They're very, very, very common. They weren't, at least in Britain in the early 90s.
Do they ask those 5 questions in that fixed order?
Yes.
Well, I would say that is because of the initial effect and the terminal effect of Psychology 101.
That is a possibility. Obviously, some studies have explored ordering effects, and they've decided it's satisfactory to use a fixed order and not to randomize. But there you go. But yeah, I agree. I mean, they're top and bottom. So research comparing 3L and 5L is just starting up, and across the different countries, we are finding that the use of the 5L shifts mean utility scores upwards towards full health. So it's compressing the range compared to the 3L. We're finding now that improvements in quality of life are valued less highly using the 5L than the 3L. And if you use a 5L rather than a 3L tariff, you can get quite substantial differences in your estimates of cost effectiveness. Now this is a bit of a challenge. 5L is probably a better measure, but if you've taken your decisions for a number of years using the 3L, what are you going to do? Do you go back to decisions? Probably not. I think it's one of these bullets you bite and you just get on with it. And then in a few years' time, it won't matter because everyone's been using a 5L.